What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Beneath the Hood, episode 5, I believe.
I think so.
My name is AC Johnny, and I'm here with Mr. Bubba. As always, Bubba, good evening. How are you?
I'm great. Really excited for this episode. The last one is like 2.5 hours. Do not expect that from this one. Johnny was up till 2 a.m. recording that, so we're not going to do another one like that.
No, I mean, no complaints from me. I had so much fun. So if you guys did not see that episode, we went and ranked every single one of our of the Assassin's Creed games in order of our favorite to least favorite. So if you're interested in that, please be sure to check it out. But on this one, we're going a little different. We want to talk about the current state of Ubisoft and why genuinely Shadows is in a very serious, like, make or break situation. This isn't just talk. This isn't like how it is every time. This is a very unique spot we're in. So as everybody knows, Ubisoft has been putting out games that haven't been received too well. In the last year, they did Skull and Bones. They did Star Wars Outlaws. And I think a little over a year ago, they did Frontiers of Pandora. And I've played Pandora and Outlaws. Bubba, have you played any of these games?
No, I have not. I was planning on it, and I never did. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon. These games are not well received overall. They were said to be really buggy and uninspired. And I think a big reason for that is it's kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but it's lazy. They are taking other IPs and just kind of using their stuff. Star Wars, Avatar, that sort of thing. So I think they're missing a lot of what makes things like Assassin's Creed great and Far Cry great is that's their own thing. They have to come up with their own thing. So I think they're greatly missing that.
Yeah, so sorry, I've got my phone up here because we are kind of to go along with this theme of Ubisoft and revenue from, because they've had some bombs, and the bad kind of bombs, not a good kind of bomb, with their past few games, like Johnny said, with Star Wars Outlaws, with Pandora, even Far Cry. Far Cry 6 was not as well received as Far Cry 5, and 4 was okay, and then 3 was really good. So they make some great games, but every now and then they don't. I'd say about half the time, maybe a little bit more. They don't make their money back almost, right? So, and they don't get great reviews, and so we're kind of working with ChatGPT right now, which is why I got my phone out, and kind of as a fun activity, and maybe this is for a few minutes later. I don't know if Johnny wants to speak to this a little bit before we get into this, but I am compiling a list of the most copies sold and the most revenue won from the 13 mainline Assassin's Creed games to date, and kind of comparing them, and we're going to kind of give our thoughts on why we think they did or did not sell well, and then at the end, of course, talking about Shadows and how this all relates to what's going on right now.
Yeah. I just want to set this up as so I have it right here. Ubisoft reported a 31.4 year-on-year decline, which is massive. I mean, this isn't like something that happens every release. This is they're in panic mode. They are in full-blown panic mode. And it's kind of refreshing because now they're really giving a shit. Yeah. I mean, it's like the curtain's down. It's like we can see everything. Communication's better than ever before because they're like, okay, no more BS, no more corporate stuff. Let's figure this out. We have delays. We have very public delays. We have all this stuff. It's very clear and obvious that they need this game to do well, or else they're probably going bankrupt and they're probably selling the company. And I just want to also say that this is the longest span, if you don't count Mirage, which I don't in this case, in between like mainline Ubisoft AC games. Because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bubba, but Mirage was made by a smaller team. Is that correct? It's not like
so.
Quebec.
It was specifically made to be a DLC, and so it was made by a team of people that make DLCs, not mainline games. So. Right.
Yeah. So this Valhalla was the time of release that this game comes out, it'll be almost 5 full years in between it. So this is probably a huge reason Ubisoft is struggling so much. It's called their flagship title for a reason. They are missing their main title from their releases. And so what I've seen a lot of people saying is, oh, it's going to flop. It's going to flop. Ubisoft's trash because of all the bad press they've been getting lately. But I strongly disagree. And I don't even care if the game's awful. Assassin's Creed always sells well. And I think it not that it's like a free, it's going to save the company. You know, I don't know the money situation exactly, but I think they can depend on a very, very strong release of a giant Assassin's Creed game for the first time in 5 years. And the Japanese theme is very popular, especially nowadays. So I think it has a really good shot. And the more people I talk to about this, they all say, oh man, AC fell off. They always flop. And what Bubba's compiling over there, at least I'm expecting, is some sort of proof that might not exactly be the case. So I have a hunch that most games in this series have sold extremely well. Would I be correct in saying that, Bubba?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I'm working with AI here, and I'm not that familiar with working with ChatGPT. So we do have a list of most copies sold that we're going to be going through. As far as like each game's budget, that's a little harder. Maybe we can talk about that another time. But comparing the budget of what was spent versus what was gained, I don't think they've ever been at a loss. Video games are not often at a loss. They're priced so high and they sell so many copies. It's not like a movie. You hear all the time in Hollywood, oh, they spent $250 million and only made $100 million. So they're at a $150 million loss. That doesn't really happen in the gaming industry, at least not that much that I know about. And if it is, it's like on a huge scale. So, of course, there's games like GTA 6 that are spending probably billions of dollars, and they're going to be getting all of that, not just on launch, but over years of microtransactions, right? They're very smart about that. But most games have a pretty modest budget, and what kills it is how long it takes to develop. That's really what kills a game. And so AC Shadows is really dancing that line right now because it has taken, I'd say, 5 to 6 years, most likely, to develop this game, maybe longer. But at least actively, I'd say that they probably started development right when they were finishing up Valhalla back in 2020. Before. Yeah. So, it could be 5, 6, 7 years. That's a long time to work on a game. That's a lot of salaries you have to pay. They probably went through a lot of different teams and employees that have kind of cycled through during that time. And so the longer a game takes to develop, the more expensive it becomes. So they are likely over budget on this game, and that is what would kill them. But at the same time, like Johnny said, they really put their heart and soul into this, and even just playing the 4-hour demo that Johnny and I played, it's palpable. You can feel that they're really putting effort into this, because like Johnny said, this is, and we'll kind of talk about this later, but this is make or break for them. And Ubisoft, it's like they're either gonna go bankrupt or they're just gonna sell, and I think they're trying to sell right now. I'm pretty sure they've been trying to sell for a while. But this makes them a lot more buyable if they have a last hurrah here. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just interesting because you see things like, I think you can actually really tell what kind of position they're in if you think about the information about future games that we do know. We have Hex was announced, 2 years ago?
Wow, even more. Probably about 3 years ago.
Like 2.5 years ago. Same with Jade, 2.5 years ago. The Netflix show, 2.5 years ago. So I believe there was a Jade. For those of you who don't know, Assassin's Creed Jade is the mobile Assassin's Creed game set in China. And there was a beta for it, I think 2 years ago, Bubba? Something like that?
Yes, yeah. Over a year ago. Yeah, well over a year
ago. A year ago, there was a beta, and we haven't heard anything since. Hex was officially and like very much Ubisoft officially announced 2 years ago. Like, this isn't some fan-made like secret behind the, data mining leaks. This was a huge announcement. There's a logo that says Assassin's Creed Hex. We haven't heard a thing about it. The Netflix show, I don't think we've heard a thing about it. So I think this is showing that, like, in the last 2 years, they've been going, oh shit, we're in some trouble here. Because they're not committing to any of this anymore. And it took a full year and a half to hear any news about Shadows. So I think maybe they are trying to sell, even if Shadows does well. But I think it's interesting to see where this goes, because there are rumors of 10 plus Assassin's Creed games in the works or something like that. And with the kind of radio silence we've had on the stuff they've already made official, it's concerning to say the least. I would say it's certainly like this is make or break time, and this is not normal for them. This is not a normal time. All these like clear communications about delays and clear communication about like what they're fixing and ironing out bugs like this, that was all behind the scenes. That was all stuff you didn't hear about because they wanted to make their, we're perfect, everything's good, this is exactly how we want it to be. And now that it's so public and now that it's so desperate, the curtain's down. They're just talking to us. Yeah, we have bugs we're ironing out. Yeah, we're making this smoother. We're updating these animations. Even after our 4-hour demo that we played, they came back with a message saying, we've heard all your thoughts and we're working on adding those. Like, this is not something that's par for the course for them. That's how you know, like, they're desperate. So it's interesting.
So, and Johnny's exactly right. I think one example that I want to show to kind of prove this further about the radio silence kind of being proof of them wanting to sell. Because of course, the more things you're working on and the more things that are under, already trying to get finished and new games that they're working on, I think the more lucrative it is for somebody to buy them out for a higher price, maybe. So to kind of flash back to about 5 or so years ago, Microsoft bought Bethesda game studios. And so they make Skyrim, they make Fallout, they made Starfield. But if you recall, there was not a single Bethesda video game for a long time after, was it Fallout 76? And they announced Elder Scrolls 6, 2018, I think, at an E3. They announced it, which it enrages me. Don't even get me started about Elder Scrolls 6.
We are 7 years out, and it will probably be 10 years till we get it.
So looking at that, why? Why did they make Skyrim and then Fallout 4 and then Fallout 76 back to back somewhat? And then, I get that Fallout 76 was kind of supposed to be live service, but then they were very public about like, hey, Starfield's our next release. Like, we're working towards this. And I think they delayed like 1 to 2 years, and maybe some more internally without actually having a release date. But they at least publicly delayed it out a year, 1 full calendar year. Why would they do that? Well, if you look at when they were purchased by Microsoft, that's a big indicator. Because the more projects you can have underway that they are predicting to be a big success, that have already had X amount of dollars put into it, hey, great, like that adds value to your company when someone goes to buy you, like Microsoft. And so that transaction went through, and then not long after, Bethesda released Starfield. And wouldn't you know it, it's an Xbox exclusive. And so, that was also in the works, because when they first announced Starfield, it was not going to be an Xbox exclusive. It was going to be on PlayStation as well. And then last minute, right before they were purchased, they changed that. And so the same kind of goes here. We've seen a lot of indicators of radio silence, like Johnny said, that indicate them wanting to sell. Assassin's Creed Jade, the mobile game. We know that it's borderline finished. The fact that they had a playable working beta over a year and a half ago. Guys, this is a mobile game. This is not a flagship title, enormous game like Assassin's Creed Shadows. They don't have the same excuse of, oh, we just want it to be the perfect Assassin's Creed game, and it's so big, and it's so everything we ever wanted. No, this is a mobile game. Is it an impressive one? Yes. Is it something that people haven't done before? No. There's a lot of mobile games just like this, and probably even more crazy and harder to run and all these things. So they're not trying to be cutting edge here, but they are probably purposefully holding this back as another card to play on their selling table. Assassin's Creed Netflix series. There's 1 to 2 reasons why that could be not a thing. One, it could have been Netflix pulling out, There has been no public cancellation of that show that I'm aware of. It's just, again, gone radio silent. So it's either Netflix is getting cold feet and they didn't want to get in more money on this, or Ubisoft had asked for some kind of delay until they possibly sell. So then that can be another card on the table. Like, yeah, look at us. We've got a contract with Netflix to make an entire TV series that's going to probably make a lot of money. Another reason to buy. And then Assassin's Creed Codename Hex, another reason. And they've got the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. Do not expect to see that until something happens with a sell. So if Assassin's Creed Shadows, so why are they not waiting for that? 2 reasons. One, they have not made a mainline game since 2020. They have to do something. They can't just be cold in the water like that. They need to be on the market, and this is their flagship title. Number 2, they were already so far along, so similar to Starfield, where it's like, no, this is already on track to release. Like, there's no point to hold this back, and we don't have an actual timeline of somebody buying us quite yet. So since there's no pending sale, let's release this. And we have had a bunch of delays. I don't think that those delays have anything to do with any kind of pending sale. I think it's purely based off of the state of play. But if they can get this right, that's another card in their hand saying, hey, look at us. We had, the Star Wars game didn't pan out too great, and neither did Pandora, but Assassin's Creed is really the reason why you want to buy us, because not only do we have all this upcoming stuff, but look, it's still relevant. It's still popular. We just made this AC Shadows game. It sold 10 million copies in the first week. Look at us. We made a ton of money, and, another reason to buy us, just to show that we're not dead. We are still popular, and people still want this franchise, and then they can sell from there. So, I don't know. Kind of my prediction there.
Well, it's just such a crazy place for this giant AAA studio to, be in. Because, let's not forget, as big as Outlaws was marketing-wise, and as big as all these other games have been, and even as big as Far Cry is, this is Assassin's Creed we're talking about. This is the main poster on GameStop's window kind of franchise. This is as classic of a video game that exists. So, and they've been missing it from their catalog. I mean, and let's back up a little more. You had 2015 was Syndicate, and then they took a 2-year break. So since 2015, they've released Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, Mirage. That is 4 games in 5 years. Compared to the previous 10 years or 7 years where they released 7 games, no, it's not really a mystery why they're struggling so much. And I don't know if COVID played problems, and in these delays and these longer times, but I have a feeling it was more so, a lot of the things that people criticize Ubisoft for probably is true, where they kind of phone it in. They say they were okay, we'll make this. Yeah, the Viking game, we will make a ton on Vikings. And then they'll say, we'll make a Star Wars game and a Pandora game and all these things that they don't have to think about and don't have to try on. The IP's already made. Everything's already made for them. So I don't know. I don't know, because to me, Assassin's Creed seems so easy from a conceptual point to make that it must truly be they wanted to branch out and diversify and not be known as the Assassin's Creed and Far Cry company. Because, I mean, it's not, obviously Ubisoft made other games forever, but it pales in comparison to what Assassin's Creed is. To this company is Assassin's Creed. Ubisoft is Assassin's Creed, and everything else, even Far Cry, comes second. Yep. So the fact that has not been the case for 10 years is probably a huge reason why they are declining so fast. But guys, Shadows, I promise you, will sell well. From the theme to the graphics to the size to the however popular open world, third person RPG style games are. I don't think they've ever been more popular. I don't see them declining anytime soon. I think this game has everything for it, despite what you might hear on TikTok, despite what you might hear anywhere else on social media. You have to understand that the people criticizing these games hardcore are not the ones that are going to be buying the most. The people that are buying this game the most are 12-year-old Timmy who like has a birthday in March and he's like, I want that cool new game. And he hasn't played a single game in the series. That's probably 65 to 70% of the sales, 80% of the sales.
It's funny because you say that and it's so true. Like people don't realize how many hardcore Assassin's Creed fans are out there that are just true to the franchise. They're like, oh yeah, what's the new one? Yeah, I'll get it. Like they just love, they love history. They love the RPGs and the Assassin's Brotherhood's so cool. And they're not outspoken about it. They're not online like debating people about, no, this one's going to be so sick. Like they really are a huge portion of the sales are just people that just enjoy it and they shut up about it. And so the people, like you said, that Johnny's talking about, that are chronically online, they're just Ubisoft haters. It doesn't matter what game's coming out. They just want that's what gets the views, guys. We're both on TikTok. We know what gets the views. The most views I get on Assassin's Creed videos are the ones of me bagging on Valhalla and Unity. Those get crazy
I will never
views
give in.
and crazy comments, millions and millions. And then the stuff that I'm like, yeah, my favorite one's AC Origins. Let me tell you why. They don't perform well because they don't want to hear about what your favorite stuff is. They want to give you, they want to hear either a hot take or they want you to bag on something. And so that's what pulls in the views. They don't actually care. They're not going to play. If they do play, they'll like play for 2 seconds and then say it was garbage. And even though they didn't really play,
right.
They haven't played an AC game since like 2 or Brotherhood or Black Flag.
Yep.
And they kind of just are, regurgitating what everybody's saying. And so on top of all of that as well, with Shadows and the fan base and, them, it kind of reminds me of actually Transformers. I always thought, and I think a lot of people in the U.S. specifically are like, why are they still making those movies? Like, who's watching this? I don't know if you've seen those TikToks of like, on today's episode of Who's Buying This? Who's buying this? And he's like at Walmart showing some random product. That's how I felt about Transformers. I was like, who's watching these movies still? Like, you can't just tell me it's kids because like nobody I feel like I am in contact with watches these anymore. Like the Rise of the Beast one and stuff. I'm like, they're getting out of hand with this. You know what it is? Freaking Asia, dude. Oh my gosh. Asia eats Transformers alive. They love Transformers. I used to live in the Philippines. In the Philippines, every semi-truck you'll see will either have a Decepticon or an Autobot emblem on the front, back, everywhere, big stickers. They love it there. And so that's kind of how Assassin's Creed is, not with like a part of the world liking it more than another, but just specifically that like they kind of have this big hidden fan base, the hidden fan base that you kind of don't see.
Well, I think I actually, based on my own TikTok stats and everything that I've like looked into and like trying to cater my stuff to make sure that most people see it, and all the YouTubers as well. Most of the big AC YouTubers, they're all European.
Yeah, a lot
like
of European.
Most of them. So I think Ubisoft and AC in particular has a huge like British, French fan base, like huge fan base over there. I think it's more than in America, like pretty significantly. If you kind of
think about the games, like they're probably kind of excited, like, yo, I live in Greece and they're making one in Greece, like how sick is that? Or Italy. And
yeah,
like I know a lot of people that love AC that are actually that are, followers of Johnny and I that live out in Greece, in Italy, in Jerusalem, in those places. So it's not really a coincidence. They do love it because it's all these European games,
It absolutely. But I think maybe that is more the outspoken, like you and I are hardcore fans, especially like myself. I play these games every day for like years. Like that's not how people are supposed to play these games. You're supposed to play these games. You're supposed to play these games once. Or maybe twice in like 10 years, maybe. You're not supposed to analyze them as deeply as we do. The story's not supposed to make as much sense as we try to make it make sense. Like, it's supposed to be a much more casual gaming experience, especially back in the day, right? Especially with like 2, 3, Black Flag even. Like, it's supposed to be like a get home from school, get home from work, put in a half hour, if you finish the game, whatever. And I would bet my life that is still a huge, huge, overwhelming majority of the sales go to people like that. And it's not me, and it doesn't go to you. It's not like that. That is not where most of the money is. So despite how the voices are the loudest, it's usually the negative voices are the loudest. Like, that's not really who they should be listening to. And I think, then we'll get into this very soon here about which game sold better than the others, but it's funny when you look at Mirage, because Mirage was made for that loud negative majority, right? It was made for people, and that's it. That is the only people who it was made for, because, and again, we'll get into this, I believe, if I were to guess, the recent 3 RPG games have sold unbelievably well. And so why would they ever change anything?
Yeah.
Why would they go and make a game like Mirage? Is only because of people berating them, the 10% of people like you and me who are hardcore diehard fans, and then there's that negative sect of them, of course, who were screaming at them, get rid of these big games, get rid of these Vikings non-assassins, we want an Assassin's game. It happened. And guess what? Those negative people are still negative. They hated Mirage. All these people who said Valhalla was too big and too long, they hate Mirage because, and the truth is, because they're not 12 anymore, because they'll never have that same experience. Doesn't matter what they do. They could make an AC2 remake, and I promise you they wouldn't enjoy it as much as the first one. It's just how it is. And so there's that loud negative majority they will never, ever make happy. And I don't think that's who will be buying Shadows mostly. I think it will mostly, as in like 80% of the sales will go to more casual, cool samurai game. I really do.
The parallels with the Star Wars community is a little scary because it's just the same. It is. Where it's like, why do you hate all the new Star Wars stuff? Because you're not 12 anymore, and that's why.
Bingo.
And so, like, don't get me wrong, I hate the sequels more than anybody, but like all the new
Not
Marvels, all the new Star Wars shows coming out, I freaking loved. Like 90% of them. I think they're doing a phenomenal job, but I know people that are like millennials or Gen X, and they're like, no, oh, this sucks. It's like, what are you talking about? This is just what you guys asked for all this time, and we're getting all this sick content, and it's because they're not 12 anymore. So, all right. Well, that being said, Johnny, do you want to know what the most copies sold per game was, ranked from 13 up to number 1? And just so you guys know, watching this isn't revenue like that they've brought in per game, because a lot of these games didn't have microtransactions and a lot did. So this is really just showing copies sold. And the data's a little wacky just because some of them are showing year to date, some of them are showing within the first year of sale, and it's all just the public data that we have access to. I'm trying to use ChatGPT to make this list, so this is the best one that we could get it to make. But that being said, that's really just showing the popularity of each game and how popular it was and how many copies it sold compared to how many dollars did it make with the microtransactions. Because, the RPG games are going to be on top for that. So,
right. I just want to re-establish the reason we're doing this is because I want to prove that Shadows will not be a bust, because that's what everybody's saying. Oh, it's going to be so bad, Ubisoft sucks, it's going to fail. I'm predicting it will do extremely well. So in a month, to the date, by the way, of the recording of this podcast, when Shadows comes out, we will see. I want to see the first month of sales, and we'll compare it to these numbers, and I'm hoping to prove to you all that this will not be a bust. So Bubba, without further ado, so I'm guessing the least selling game. Is that correct?
Yes. Let's guess number 13. What sold the least amount of copies?
Okay, so I have no idea, guys. I don't know this list at all. So this is just me going off of my hunches. So I'm predicting Assassin's Creed Rogue will be the least selling game just because it came out the same exact day as Unity did. I believe it was November 11th, 2014. I'm a huge loser for knowing that, but I believe that was the day it came out. And
it's the same day as Skyrim, but 2011. I didn't know it was November 11th. That's funny.
Oh yeah. So I think so Unity, for those who don't know, was a PS4 release when the PS4 was brand new, and Rogue was a PS3 release. It is a literal game marketed to people who don't have a PS4, which like isn't done very much at all. That like making a specifically old gen game, it's not a common thing. So I'm going to guess for that reason, Rogue is dead last.
Johnny, you're exactly on the mark, and I'm going to be showing what number 13 and number 12 are. So the two least selling games of copies sold are Rogue and Unity combined. So we don't know what they made individually. The split of how much it made per game, we don't know. But it says combined with Unity, both games shipped 10 million copies. So that's actually not the lowest on this list, but because it's split in half, it is. So even if you do a 50-50 split, that is the lowest
That's
per
interesting.
game. Yeah. So, and if you
That's
think
so
back,
interesting.
you're exactly right, Johnny, about Rogue being a prior gen release, but then Unity, people didn't know how to feel about Unity at the time, and especially when it first launched, how buggy it was, immediately turned off all of those buyers that wait a week until buying. They're like, no, I'm not buying this game. And so it really doesn't surprise. Well, I guess Unity does kind of surprise me because it was a next-gen game at the time. But I think of how buggy it was at launch and how much backlash Unity caused Ubisoft.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense that it was only 10 million combined. So
Now, it does make sense. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if that split was like 8 million Unity, 2 million Rogue. Like, Rogue just isn't... Most people don't know that Rogue exists.
most people,
even.
it's probably the least played game, besides like Liberations, but I don't even count Liberations.
No, I don't. As a console release, as a main console release, Rogue is 100% the least played game.
Yeah.
And so, but Unity, it's interesting because that is a end of the year metric, which that makes sense. It was getting terrible press. It was the worst release they ever had to this day. It was really harmful to Ubisoft's reputation. Still is. Still haunts them, that release. But what Unity is today in 2025 is like the most beloved TikTok clipping, like parkour. People will just enjoy, like overrated, like to the moon, in my opinion. It's good, but people say it's the perfect game. Everything's flawless about it. It works great nowadays. It is not flawless by any means, but because of how pretty it looks, because of how good the parkour is, like, and the French Revolution aesthetic, it's become so popular. So I wouldn't be surprised if Unity in like total money is pretty high on the list, all in all. But for now, that's good. Okay, so that's
the bummer
13
to
and
me.
12.
I wish that they did show to date copies sold. They just don't have a metric for that. Because they sell it on so many platforms. I mean, they sell on the same amount of platforms. Well, actually, no. I mean, they've got PS3, PS4, PS5, and then all the Xboxes, and then PC, and then they also sell it on the Switch now, and so.
Wait, no, the Switch only has Rogue, Black Flag, and maybe the Ezio trilogy. So that's going to have a nice little.
But
that'll
still,
be a
it'd
boost.
be so
Actually,
cool to see year to date because there's been such a new audience that are just now coming in. I'm sure a lot of you watching the podcast may be relatively new to Assassin's Creed. Maybe your older siblings played it growing up, or you're just now learning about it. And so it doesn't show to date. And a lot of these games, like Unity, have become very popular now. They really have. And so I think the numbers would be different if we did have to date numbers. But this is probably within the first fiscal year of launch.
Okay.
And some of these are even saying within the first few weeks or first few months is what it's tracking. And so it's just based off the most public data that we've got. So we'll take it.
All right, so that's 13 and 12.
12 and
Go
13.
Rogue and Unity.
So
my next
the next one, you are going to be, well, I don't know if you'll be shocked about this one. Do you want to guess what, let's see, what number 11 is?
I mean, the next guess for me would be Assassin's Creed Revelations, and I know that the game was like peaking. Assassin's Creed was the most popular at that time, but it had a really messed up development cycle where it was supposed to be a handheld. It was really fit in where it didn't need to be. It was supposed to be Brotherhood, then AC3, but they fit in Revelations in there as a placeholder because AC3 was taking too long. So for that reason, I'm going to guess Revelations.
Johnny, you know too much. It is Revelations. Really? AC Revelations, this says 7 million copies sold. So that is number 11 on our list, Assassin's Creed Revelations. And yeah, that totally makes sense. At the time, and just so a lot of the audience knows, but I grew up playing these games when they all released. Johnny didn't. He got into it within the past few years here. But I don't remember any lack of hype around Revelations. I think it was a surprise, though. People weren't expecting yet another Ezio game. And so it still did really well, I think. And I'm pretty sure the budget was pretty low, so I'm sure it made good money. But yeah, as far as copies sold, that is on the lower end there at 7 million.
Okay. All right.
So pretty shocking, though, that it outsold Unity to me.
I mean, it might have outright if Unity sold 8 or 9.
Rogue might have sold 1 million for all we know.
Unity being that low is even if Unity was 9 million, that's still so surprising to me that it was that low. But But so that I would not have guessed. So I kind of got to get out of jail free there. But I'm 2 for 2 technically speaking so far. So
okay. So now are we at number 10? The number 10 most sold copies of Assassin's Creed. What do you think your guess is?
Let me think. Syndicate.
Nope, not Syndicate. It is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood at 7.2 million copies. So, that being said, I mean, that is only 0.2 million less, so just 200,000 less copies sold than Revelation. So, really not that different. So, there really wasn't some drop-off, I would say.
Wow.
In sales.
That's surprising.
And Brotherhood was, like, the shiz. Like, Brotherhood was
You're
it.
telling me Brotherhood sold worse than AC1?
Yeah.
That's shocking to me.
Yeah,
wow.
Let me find
Okay, all right.
AC1 on this list. I won't say what it is yet, but let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is surprising. Okay. So we have Rogue, Unity, Revelations, Brotherhood. Oh my God, now I'm totally out of whack. Is Mirage on this list?
Mirage is on this list.
I don't think it's going to be that low. I think gaming's too popular now. Maybe that's what I'm
Could be a big one.
estimating.
Yeah, gaming's definitely gotten way more mainstream.
Maybe that's what I'm underestimating here. Is back in the old days, they're not going to sell as many copies simply because
and budgets were so different. Like, they didn't spend that much money making these games, so they were all at a massive profit.
True. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to guess next is Syndicate.
No. Next is the first Assassin's Creed game. So Assassin's Creed sold 8 million copies. So more than Brotherhood and Revelations. That is shocking to me.
That is shocking to me because
it's new. It was new.
It was new, and it was also not like the game that brought the series to big popularity, right? Which
yes and
that
no.
game
Like,
has...
it definitely was like, it was very cutting edge. It really was. Like, we didn't have games that had movement like that before, and so Assassin's Creed 2 is when they said, okay, well, let's try. And so that's what popped off there.
Yeah.
So
okay, all right,
million.
okay. I keep saying Syndicate because it was such a post-Unity. It was everybody had a bad taste in their mouth. The theme wasn't very popular. Like, there's no way Syndicate sold better than some of these games. But now I'm all out of whack. Now I don't know if I should guess Syndicate again. I can't guess Syndicate again. I think AC3 sold stupid well. Because of the American Revolution, because of AC was in full swing. Oh, God. Okay, I'll mix it up here. I'm going to say Odyssey because there were no assassins and there was no hoods and it got such bad press and, like, it was another kind of Unity style thing. I'm going to say Odyssey, even though I think these last 3 games were super popular, but I think Odyssey would be the least popular of them. Have the worst launch. So
the next one's going to shock you. The next one up on the list is Assassin's Creed 2.
No way.
Assassin's Creed 2 only sold, it says, over 9 million copies, but there is an asterisk next to it that says within the first 6 months. So it probably sold quite a bit more than
ton.
That. Within the first 6 months, it sold 9 million copies, and I'm sure it outperformed a lot of the others after that. But
yeah.
In the first 6 months, 9 million.
Then I'm totally lost. I think, because it's so funny because 9 million even nowadays is big numbers. That's big numbers. That's 9 million copies sold is huge, and that's like, it's pretty crazy that they were pulling that back then when gaming just wasn't a thing. That shows how mainstream these games were. So I'm totally thrown for a loop now. What was that, 8?
Something like that. I'm a little off track because it didn't number it very well. The metrics are all wacky,
yeah.
So it was up there.
Okay.
So for the next one, I want to step in here. I have not included Assassin's Creed Syndicate yet. All it has told me is that within the first week of sales, it made 0.9 million copies. So I did a quick Google search, just barely, because I was like, uh-oh.
Okay.
It says as of November 2017, they sold over 5.5 million units. So that being said,
oh my God,
that's lower on the list. That's the lowest.
That's probably right around Rogue. That's probably. I would still guess Rogue's lower. I would guess Rogue's 2 or
Rogue,
3.
Yeah, Rogue is most likely lower, but that's down there.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
So Unity
okay.
Syndicate.
Now.
And so
Okay.
think about that. That is what caused that slap
That's
in the
so
face shift of like,
true.
we need to get into this RPG thing with Origins.
Whoa. Wow. Actually, now that we have the stats, that's really cool to see. So so in the bottom 3 are Unity, Rogue, and Syndicate. 3 games in a row.
Yeah, so the least
the-
amount of copies
Oh
sold
my
for Assassin's
God.
Creed historically were Rogue, Unity, and Syndicate. So like I just said, that's why they made this big shift into, holy crap, stop the train. We need to shift how we're making games, because people aren't receiving this like they used to, with, Assassin's Creed 2 making over 9 million copies sold in the first 6 months. And now to go to, 5 million copies sold within not
2 years.
within the first year or so. Yeah, what did that say?
That's 2
2017?
years.
Yeah, so years after.
2 years.
And
That's
so
crazy.
they did not perform well. So there's a reason, there's a financial reason, not just people complaining. It's like, no, the numbers showed that they need to make a shift, and that's why they moved over to the RPG side of things with Assassin's Creed Origins. And that number shows. We're about to get into some higher numbers here.
Well, I'm glad my radar was still correct then.
Yeah,
'cause the
you were like,
Syndicate-
wait, why have we not done Syndicate
There's
yet?
no way. I had a feeling. Okay, that makes me feel a lot better then. Now I'm back. Okay.
we're
So
back.
now
So
let me
we're
go
at
through
Assassin's
what we
Creed 2,
have
which is like
left.
number 8 or something. I'm sorry. The list, you guys maybe
Okay.
can keep track better than I can. We're at number 8 or something like that. So AC2 over 9 million copies. The next one.
Okay, so
before
let's-
you guess,
Yeah.
it is like a 4-way tie. So there's 1, 2,
Yeah. Tell me how many. I'll guess them.
3. Oh, let's see. 1, 2, 3. There's a 3-way tie for over 10 million copies sold. Do you want to guess what that 3-way? Oh,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I do.
This
and
list is including Unity. It says over 10 million copies sold. It's not. It's not
Okay.
looking at the fact that that's split. So there's a 2-way tie for 10 million
Okay.
copies sold. What do you think it is?
This one to me. Oh man, I'm stuck. I would guess Odyssey and Valhalla, or Valhalla and Mirage, because I think that's where you get the sticky people. That's where if you were in it, you're in it. So if you bought Valhalla and you liked it, you're probably going to buy Mirage. The same thing could be said if you liked Odyssey, you're going to buy. So I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess those 3 then. For that reason, I bet whoever bought Odyssey, I think it's Odyssey, Valhalla, and Mirage. I bet if you liked those 3, you stuck with it. You like if you played Valhalla, you're gonna go and buy Mirage. Like I just think that if you're in Assassin's Creed, you're in Assassin's. I'm gonna guess those 3.
You're very, very close. So the
Okay.
3-way tie for over 10 million copies sold is Odyssey, Origins, and Mirage.
Oh,
So
Damn.
that being said, that makes sense. I do want to say
Yep.
a note here about Mirage. It's telling me first week sales was 1.4 to 1.7 million, which was actually phenomenal.
Very
first
good.
week sales. And then it says the first 3 months was about 5 million, and then I think within the first year it was 10 million. And so
Yep.
if you remember, and we remember, Assassin's Creed Mirage actually was received very well, I think, by a
Yes.
lot of fans. It was really split in half, just like every game is. But people were watching the gameplay, and people were hearing the feedback of like, yeah, it's a $50 game, going back to the roots. It looks like the old Assassin's Creed games. It moves very well. The stealth is there. People wanted that. And the numbers are speaking for that. And so all the more reason to really put an emphasis on stealth and movement in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Not like that was the decision maker there. They were already making it to be that way. But Mirage, again, that's a proof point that Mirage did its purpose.
Absolutely.
It did its job. They did what we wanted. Even though it wasn't
Absolutely.
received by everybody, it performed very well. And it wasn't even marketed that crazy, in my opinion.
no, not at all. Well, that's the interesting
Especially
part.
compared to
So,
Odyssey and Origins.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So I'd like to pause right here and take a moment for everybody to listen to Uncle Johnny here and say, oh my God, maybe he's right. So everybody look, AC2, even against what I thought, Brotherhood, Revelations 2, all your favorite games, everybody's, oh, when Assassin's Creed was the best. Unity, Syndicate, all those sold worse than Mirage, Odyssey, Valhalla, and Origins. I would like to put that very plain and clear that it is trending since Syndicate way up, way up, way up. So again, it bodes very well for Shadows, and I'm going to go ahead and put my next guess. So I think we're left with Valhalla 3 and Black Flag. Is that correct?
Let's see. So we have 3 left, and we do
those
have,
are the 3.
Yep, 3 Black Flag Valhalla, so not in any specific order.
All right, I'm going to go with Valhalla next. I wouldn't be surprised. I think, let me just do it all here then. And I'll give you my guesses. I would bet my life that
in third place,
Black Flag. In third place, I think it's Valhalla. In second place, I think it's 3, just because of the marketing and the time of like Assassin's Creed and PS3 and like gaming was just starting to explode. And then I think I'd bet so much money that Black Flag is the best selling one. So how would I do?
Are you ready? Number 3.
Yeah.
In third place at 12 million copies sold, Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh.
So I want to say I am shocked that it is ranked that high. Back when Assassin's Creed 3 came out, okay, for one, they did crazy marketing for this game, and they were at every event. They were letting people demo their game. People were loving it. It was cutting edge. It was the epitome of cutting edge. You might not think so now, but that new game engine was phenomenal. The nature physics that they had with like the snow, and you can climb trees, and you had the rope dart, and you had so many NPCs that you could have at one time. So like the Battle of Bunker Hill is insane. You've got like hundreds of NPCs. It was cutting edge, and they were showing off this game at every event possible. So this was marketed like crazy. And I think it being in the United States really appealed to the U.S. audience for the very first time in Assassin's Creed history, the only time in AC history. And so there's a lot going for AC3 that I didn't even realize, because after the fact, it wasn't received that well for a bunch of reasons. People didn't love Connor. People didn't love how long it took for you to get to Connor, and Desmond and all this stuff. Like, people didn't love it, but I think that shows it was super popular. And so 12 million, pretty crazy.
I remember I was 12, and I remember that trailer. Like, that's how big the marketing was.
I mean, I remember
it was on TV. No. I don't remember every trailer on TV. I remember every trailer from E3s and they show up on YouTube. This was like
TV
halftime of a Patriots game or something.
Oh yeah.
Like this is when Assassin's Creed was probably more mainstream than it ever was. Right around Assassin's Creed 3.
I think that's exactly right. I think this and then maybe Odyssey. It didn't sell quite as well, but I think Odyssey was up there for as how much they marketed it. They were marketing the crap out of that game engine, and like they didn't have an E3 trailer. They had an in-game engine trailer, and there's a lot of TV spots for it. So I think that's the only other time I can think of. But yeah, AC3 was definitely on TV.
I mean, this and Black Flag. This is when the golden age of Assassin's Creed. This is when they could do no wrong. This is when they said, let's go. Let's put out 2 games in 2014. Let's put out Syndicate. They were full steam ahead, and that's when they hit their screeching halt with Unity. So right coming out of Revelations into 3, into Black Flag, they could do no wrong. Assassin's Creed was the game back then. That was when gaming was starting to explode, become so much more mainstream, and Assassin's Creed was at the forefront of it. So I'm not terribly surprised by this. How'd I do on number 2? Is it Valhalla?
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
You are very incorrect. Are you ready for these staggering numbers? So
you tell me. Wait,
no, John.
What?
In third place, it was 12 million with Assassin's Creed 3. In second place, most copies sold, 15 million copies Assassin's Creed Black Flag. In first place by an enormous margin with over 20 million copies sold is Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yes,
Johnny,
sir.
I will give you the floor to gloat as much as you want.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hello. Here we are. Everybody is saying Shadows will flop, Shadows will flop, Shadows will flop. It's so bad, Ubisoft stinks. People are forgetting what Assassin's Creed is. They're forgetting the monster. And I've been trying to tell you people, Assassin's Creed games do not flop. They do not flop. And they'll say, well, the recent ones flopped. This is evidence that they
0%.
did not flop.
Yeah, 0%.
0%. It was one of the biggest games then of 2020 by far. Probably one of the biggest games of the last 5 years by purely copies sold. That's a guess, but I wouldn't be surprised. And it leads you into Shadows, which we haven't had a giant AC in so long that this will be massive. This is going to explode. It's going to be huge. It's going to sell so great. And nobody believed me. And I can't wait to prove everybody wrong. And when I'm proved wrong, I'm going to be very sad. But I don't think I will be. I really don't. I think this is going to be a huge thing. And I think now, whether or not this will save Ubisoft or just give them a good reason to buy, I don't think sell. I don't think it matters. I think this game's going to sell like crazy.
Yes.
So thank you. That was a great exercise. I'm so happy that I was actually, it turned out way better than I thought. Now, I would like to just one more time point out that all of the newer games are in the top half. Most of the older games are in the bottom half. Like, this is a clear trend of Ubisoft selling Assassin's Creed games have gone up since Origins, which everybody would be surprised at, but it's 100% true that it's not just the negative TikTokers you hear. It's not just Asmongold. It's not just all these hardcore, chronically online people complaining about Assassin's Creed that are buying these games. It's mostly somebody coming home from school, clocking a half hour. Like, that's most of the people buying Assassin's Creed, and I think that will carry Shadows to be a giant game.
Well, and this is a huge indicator that Assassin's Creed is not falling off, Ubisoft is. And that
Bingo.
This is, the golden goat that is going to save, I don't know if that's a saying, but I'm going to make it one. It is the golden goat of Ubisoft, and that this is, their saving grace here. Guys, that's a staggering difference from 15 million at Assassin's Creed Black Flag to over 20 million. Gaining 5 million new players like that for the top, and from the last game, guys, from Origins and Odyssey that made over 10 million to then doubling that with Valhalla. What the hell is going on? Like, that is insane. You do not hear numbers like that in gaming history at all, unless it's like Red Dead 1 from Red Dead 2, which had like a decade gap in between. Like, it doesn't happen. So that's just insane. And one thing I want to note here, 1 calendar year after release, it passed $1 billion in revenue. There are very few games under this freaking sky that have reached over $1 billion in revenue, and that was years ago. The amount of DLCs that have come out that are $40 DLCs for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, whether you like them or hate them, doesn't matter. That's going to bring it up. I don't even know what it's at now. And then the amount of microtransactions in that game as well for skins and stuff like that. Oh my gosh. Definitely their highest grossing game by far.
Yeah, and let me just point out that to everybody listening, if you're listening on YouTube, if you're watching this on TikTok, you are not who is buying this game in majority. This is the most hated game in the series by a long shot, and yet it's the highest selling. Doesn't that make you think, that's pretty interesting. Maybe everything I hear on TikTok isn't what everybody in the world thinks. So that was very fun for me.
Another fun number, I'm just looking up on Google to see some more metrics. In the past 10 years, Assassin's Creed has made $4 billion in revenue. And if you think over a quarter of that is Valhalla.
That's stupid.
And guys, that was as of 2021. I'm trying to find a number right now to see how much they, to date. Let's see if Google knows. But I mean, just so staggering that they have made this much money from that game. And so, like Johnny said, Shadows has to be more popular than Valhalla. It has every green flag under the sun for an Assassin's Creed game, or just a game, an RPG game, to be successful. And like, they're paying attention. This is their saving grace. They put in the work, and they're gonna get the reward from it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was that as the premier Valhalla defender on the internet. that was very fun for me. Just especially to do it over Black Flag 2. Oh, that made me so happy. So thank you for that. But guys, I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight. Unless, Bubba, you got any other closing remarks? Any final notes here?
I don't think so. I mean, Johnny and I just want to say thank you guys for all the love that you've shown to this new podcast. I love the amount of comments saying, like, I wasn't expecting to watch this whole thing, but I loved it, and I watched the whole thing. And saying you guys love the podcast. Thank you guys so much for all the feedback, and I love to see your guys' ranks as well. Our last podcast was 2.5 hours long, and I loved seeing the comments of your top 3 or top 5 or whatever favorite Assassin's Creed games. That was really fun to see. So leave in the comments kind of what your thoughts are. If we missed anything, which by the way, we're working with ChatGPT here. I probably got some numbers wrong here and there. Correct us in the comments. You probably already did,
Please.
But just go for it. We want to hear, what you guys are finding online. And if you find some numbers to date, I'm really curious if you guys can find some numbers showing revenue to date with a lot of these games, because maybe the list changes a little bit. Now, I don't think anything's going to top Valhalla, but with some of the ones in the middle there might be some that are higher now than they used to be. But we're going to be doing a lot more. We're going to be doing more podcasts talking about the actual lore of Assassin's Creed and going in more into the story, going slower, so kind of game by game, talking about individual games and what made them good and things that we loved, and looking back at kind of with that magnifying glass, as well as doing more ranked videos like this, like the one that we're eventually gonna do is ranking the E3 trailers, like those. I think those are so fun. We all love those E3 trailers. So put in the comments, guys. I want to hear from you guys because we're only so creative. I want to hear some ideas that you guys would like to hear us talk about with Assassin's Creed, whether it's a ranked video or whether it's diving into a specific video game and what the topic should be. I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys, and hopefully we'll take some of those ideas and make something fun out of it. But thank you guys so much for all the love and support.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. As Bubba was saying, this has been, I'm having a blast. I think, Bubba, we're both having so much fun doing this. So we appreciate all the love. And I'm just going to say it, guys, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying it. We're going to be doing this weekly now. This is going to be a thing. I'm having so much fun, and we're going to be putting it out every Monday, a weekly podcast. We're doing it unless something like last week happens. It was a really, really long podcast. It took me a bit longer to edit, so I needed an extra week. If something like that happens, I'll let you know. But for the most part, it's going to be a Monday pod, guys. So thank you so much for the support. I hope everybody has a wonderful week ahead of them, and we will talk to you in the next one.